Hey, what's happening, YouTube buyers and sellers? Chris Bevington here. I'm a local Phoenix area realtor based out of Glendale, Arizona, to be a little bit more specific. Thanks for stopping by the channel. If you read the title, we are going to talk today about why I think that low interest rates are going to be very bad for buyers. Now, hear me out before you roast me, before you comment or give me a call and say that I'm wrong. I'm not talking about small interest rate drops here and there. If you're already under escrow, if you're already out there shopping for a home, a little bit lower interest rate, obviously going to help your mortgage payment. That's fantastic. What I'm actually talking about is if rates continue to drop, and they did just drop again, the lowest one-day drop in over a year, under 6.3% right now. If they continue to drop, like there's a lot of chatter about more potential rate cuts in September, and then more rate cuts toward the end of 2025, and then maybe even more rate cuts in the spring and early first quarter of 2026, and rates come down into the 5s or even the 4s. That, in my opinion, would be an absolute frenzy, and that would be very bad for buyers. Not necessarily all buyers, of course, but I think it would be very difficult for a lot of buyers, and a lot of things that we're seeing in the market right now, especially out here in the Phoenix area, would most likely go away if that happens. So first, before we get into it, I want to say I'm obviously not predicting that rates are going to come down. I'm not guaranteeing that rates are going to come down, and I'm not even predicting that a lot of the things we're going to talk about today will actually happen. But a lot of the things that we'll talk about today that may happen if rates are much lower actually did happen just a few years ago during the pandemic when rates were in the 3s, and sometimes people were even getting rates in the 2s. So again, not a guarantee, but a pretty accurate, educated guess if you ask me, and a lot of real estate professionals are pretty much of the same opinion as well. So if you're just now sitting on the fence and you could get out there and test the market, you think you can buy a home, and you've seen some beautiful homes in your neighborhood, and you're just like, rates are too high, I'm not going to be out there. This is literally what you've been waiting for. 2023 rates were like 8%. So end of the year 2023, I had buyers qualifying like 8.25%, 8.125%. They were buying homes at like 7.75, 7.875. And they've since refinanced, so that's good. But the point of that is, if you've just been waiting for rates to come down, this is literally what you've been waiting for. Again, rates under 6.3%. And that has created a very good market for buyers out there. Buyers have a lot of leverage. Buyers have a lot of negotiating power. There are a lot of motivated sellers out there, sometimes downright desperate sellers out there that we could be taking advantage of. So if you are thinking for rates to come down, basically you and everybody else, right? Everyone else is waiting for rates to come down. They may be waiting for some other things here and there, but there is a lot of people, a lot of pent-up demand, and they are thinking the same thing that you're thinking. And when rates come down, all of these buyers are going to flood the market, and that's why I think it's going to create a very difficult market for buyers. And a lot of the things we're seeing in this market might go away. So today I want to talk about, I think, 6 things that will most likely change or go away altogether if the rates come down a lot, and that will make it a very bad market for buyers. So the first thing I think that's going to go away with lower rates will be the price drops, right? We're seeing a lot of price drops out here in the Valley, not a crash, not no appreciation year over year, just slower. And with the home sitting on the market a little bit, sellers are having to, entice buyers to get out there by having some price drops here and there. And that's good news for you as a buyer. Obviously, if it's a much more competitive market, there's way more buyers out there. Not only are sellers not going to be dropping the price, but prices will most likely go up because there's 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 or possibly 75. Now hear me out. In 2021, I had a buyer get an offer accepted, and he was one of 75 offers on this house. So that just drives the prices way up, right? So we will not only just see the price drops go away, but most likely home prices will go up. A second thing that will most likely go away is seller concessions, right? So right now, a lot of buyers engaging in the market have good down payment, have a good job, pretty good credit, but maybe they need some extra assistance from the seller for their concessions, closing costs, lender fees, title fees, and all of those things. We are seeing, $8,000 to $10,000 on average across the board here in the Valley for seller concessions. And obviously, if there's again 8, 10, 20, 75 people trying to buy that house, there is absolutely zero reason for the seller to offer concessions, and maybe even zero reason for them to even consider them if they've got a handful of offers that don't need them. So concessions, most likely toast. Days on market, obviously, is going to be a big one that will probably change if the market shifts with lower rates. And days on market is something that people, I think, kind of don't really consider that much right now when they look at a home. If they see it's been on the home for 30 or 40 days, there's not a big stigma attached to that like there may have been in the past, like, oh, that house has to be trash, or it's way overpriced, or it's in a sucky neighborhood, or whatever. It's just taking longer to sell. And that is really awesome for buyers. We're able to go out there, see a home multiple times, go home, marinate on it, hang out, talk about talk about it with your friends and family, go see that home again, bring mom and dad by, go out the following weekend and see a handful of other homes, and then be like, you know what, Chris, that house over there, 123 Main Street, man, that was the one. I can't get that one out of my head. Let's go ahead and make an offer. You can really feel like you're buying the home of your dreams and not just waiting for the seller to just accept an offer, and every single day we're out there shopping, fingers crossed they accept your offer. So obviously in a much more competitive market, you're going to have much more urgency. You're going to have to be skipping that barbecue and skipping that soccer game and jamming out to every open house or every showing that you can get into after work or whatever, because if you miss that tiny little window that the home's on the market, you're cooked. That house has gone to the next buyer already. Fourth thing that's very actually prevalent right now, especially in the Phoenix area, are the new build incentives. We have a really strong new build population out here. We have a lot of new build communities, especially on the outskirts of the valley. And those new build communities, a lot of them are straight up begging for buyers. They are offering so many things. They're paying us as agents more to bring our buyers in there. They have lot discounts. They have obviously price drops. They're giving away some concessions for closing costs. They're doing design studio incentives. They're doing landscaping packages. They're doing 3.99% interest rates. They are desperate for buyers to come buy some of these homes. And obviously in the market shifts, that's something that's going to go away. That will be not a thing that the new build communities are going to have to do to attract buyers, because buyers are going to be out in droves already. There will be no need for extra incentives at some of these new build communities. Another thing that I think people aren't really thinking about is these quote unquote less desirable buyers. Obviously not for me. I help everybody and I'll be out there fighting for you to buy a house regardless. But people that may have a more difficult time in a much more competitive market are going to be people with like VA and FHA loans, people needing down payment assistance, those people who aren't as competitive as just a straight cash buyer or someone conventional coming in with 20% or more down. Those buyers are going to have a very difficult time. And again, I'm not predicting and I'm not definitely saying this will happen, but I remember having those types of buyers in 2021, and they were just very, very, very frustrated and stressed out because their offers were not getting accepted. They were getting not only blown out of the water in purchase price, but blown out of the water in all of the other things that these other better buyers can offer a seller. So FHA and VA buyers, down payment assistance, those types of buyers are going to have a very difficult time getting their offer accepted. Now, number 6, you can talk about this another time. Maybe say that our commissions are bloated, or that we're overpaid, or that we don't work hard enough to make all the money that we make. But the last thing I think that really will go away in a more competitive market is the sellers paying their buyer agent commissions. Again, who pays what? How much do we get paid? All of those things we can talk about in another video. Simple fact is, I have a job, you have a job, we both get paid for our job. None of us work for free, right? So right now out here in Phoenix, still a vast majority of the sellers are willing to pay those buyer agent commissions. And in a more competitive market, sellers are going to be less incentivized to do that. Two equally, financially equal offers, all things considered, one buyer doesn't have the cash to pay their agent and one does, that second buyer is going to get the offer because the seller doesn't have to chip in for their buyer agent commission. This is just going to put more financial pressure and stress on buyers who are already looking at down payment, already looking at closing costs, and then now we're going to tack on an extra expense onto their home buying process. And it's going to be very, very stressful for them. So who knows how that will all shake out, but it will definitely be one thing that sellers will most likely not have to consider in a much more competitive market. So what does all this mean? If you're waiting for rates to come down, and when the rates come down, you're going to be one of those millions and millions of buyers that jump out into the market and want to buy a house. I'm not telling you not to engage in the market. Please do. I'll be out there just like a lot of us other agents, fighting as hard as I can for you, working as hard as I can for you, trying to get you a house of your dreams, and navigating the crazy market I think that would happen, right? But what I do recommend is if you're only waiting for rates to come down right now, you think that you can buy a house, you have a good job, you have good credit, you have some money saved up, and you're wondering what's going on out there in the market, I am recommending that everybody that's considering it, give me a call your local real estate professional, your trusted realtor or whatever, get in touch with the lender and get out there and test the market. There are, as I said, a lot of motivated and sometimes downright desperate sellers out there, and you never know what you're going to find. And if you find that you're not quite ready yet, or you don't really find a home, no harm, no foul. And then when rates come down or something else changes with you and your family and the timing is better later this year or next year, and you're engaging the market and the market has shifted and a lot of these things go away, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't engage then either. I'm just simply saying that if you're waiting, number one, this is what you've been waiting for. And number two, I strongly encourage you to get out there and test the market. So let me know what you think down in the comments, or if you have any other questions, feel free to give me a call. If you like the content, want to find your way back, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. Thanks for coming by. We'll talk soon.